Hello, everybody. It is time for the DMTales TTRPG book club. And today we are going to be dealing with chapters 1 and 2 of, let me get this book up here, Daggerheart. And I'm going to introduce you to the panel right now, and actually the person who is leading the discussion, because it's not me who's leading it. We're here with one Jason, aka Shadowmane, and Jacob, aka Paravox, who are here. Jason's going to be running the stream tonight, or running the chat tonight. I am going to make sure that people know that we're actually here, because that would be a good thing. And we're going to be talking about the first couple chapters, which I'm really looking forward to. So, Jason, you want to take it away and have people, or you want me to have you guys introduce yourselves for that, or you want to take care?
Sure.
So we had two things. It was introduce, and what is your experience with Daggerheart before this actual live stream, I guess was what we were going to say.
That sounds like a good place to start.
Cool.
So I am Jason C., but everywhere else on the interwebs, you will find me as Shadowmane, Shadomain, because that's the name of our TTRPG website and every other social media. I have read Daggerheart and never played it, never GM'd it, although I did watch the Critical Role, the mini campaign that they did. That is my entire experience. What about you, Jake?
Yep, I'm Jacob, or Paravox on Discord. I have been doing Daggerheart stuff basically since it was announced. I've played in a few different one-shots and small campaigns. I wrote my own session and ran it at conventions. And I am currently working on possibly another scenario. I'm also a QA engineer by trade, and I like to do a lot of playtesting, so this is kind of my jam.
This is your thing.
Yep.
So good. So, hey, Elise is here. Hi, Elise. How are you? Good to see you. And I'm Wes, and this is my channel. Welcome. So, DMTales, I hang out, and I have played Daggerheart all of one time at Gamehole Con. I have watched actual play of it, and I've read the first two chapters of the book like other folks. So this is kind of one of my first deep delves into the system. I'm kind of excited.
All right. So we picked the first two chapters of Daggerheart because the book is 366 pages, and we didn't want to overwhelm our faithful readers. Speaking of which, if you join Wes's Discord, you can participate in our discussions ahead of time, and maybe we'll use your comments. Or maybe you'll be a host if you're happy-go-lucky like we are.
Yes, if you want to join the coffee contributors, here, I'll put the link back up again. This is the channel members for DMTales. That'll give you access to the Discord. That is where the TTRPG book club forum is. We have a topic for each of the subjects that we're doing. We started with Daggerheart chapters 1 and 2. We didn't stay there because it's a bunch of nerds. But we had a lot of fun talking about it. And as you'll see tonight, if you contribute to the conversation there, one of your comments might end up being on stream at some point. And we're looking to draw a further pool of people who are interested in being on camera. So if this is something that you are interested in and you hang out with us enough, and we think you'll be a very good fit, we want to make sure that we do good representation on here. We would love to have you on stream and join us at some point. But the way to get into that pool is by doing Coffee Contributor. With the link is right there. And I'll leave that up for a second.
Cool. So, thanks. So let's start before we even open the freaking book. We get a box, and published by Darrington Press, I think last May, when they immediately ran out of stock because this is such a popular game. So we get a book, and we also get some cards. And the game uses tokens, which you could use almost anything for. What do we think about that? I'm sure none of us have any opinions on the. Ooh, look at Wes actually has it with him. He's more prepared than I
got it. I have everything here. Oh, it's sitting in my mess of a studio. So yes,
I only have the book because the cards are over there somewhere.
Uh-huh.
What do we think about this game? Doesn't require cards. It's just like any other game. You could just play with dice in the book and paper. But there are some other cool stuff, including these cards, which I won't comment. I'll let you guys go first. What do we think about the cards being included? The idea that cards are kind of leaned on in this game.
So I have a love-hate relationship with the cards.
Cool.
Because I like the idea of having cards as like an easy way to flip through and see all of your potential abilities, both in like planning a character out as just an easy way rather than the standard like a book with what blocks and blocks of abilities to read through.
Mm-hmm.
So formatting wise, I do like it. On the other hand, I can lose cards. I also don't have duplicates right off the gate, so like if multiple people want one ability, it gets awkward. That kind of thing.
Yeah, they even mentioned that in the book, is like, try to make sure that people don't use things that need the same card. I'm like, what? So that was weird.
I do appreciate that, like, the cards themselves, the images are like available online. They allow anybody to get them, and like you can print your own and stuff. So I really appreciate that. I think I would feel much stronger against it if that wasn't the case. And they do not have on the character sheets a way to write down which cards you have, which is probably my biggest gripe about them.
Don't they have like a separate sheet, like an auxiliary sheet that you can put all your abilities on, though?
Not that I know of.
Oh, okay.
They do have the extra ability sheet that teaches you the fold over thing.
Yeah, they have the side,
which is
card.
Awesome. That is
okay,
a great
but
idea.
They don't have like a thing where you can write all the abilities down.
Right.
So
Not
cards
really.
are bust. Yeah, that seems like a bit of an oversight there.
Yeah, this is skipping way ahead to the appendix outside of chapter 1 and 2. The sidecar is something everybody should steal. Every designer, every publisher should do that.
I thought the sidecar was a very cool idea. So
it's another piece of paper with stuff printed on it. You can fold it over and it tells you this is what this is for. This is how to use it, that kind of thing. Basically a walk. It's as if you had somebody looking over your shoulder the first time you play the game, helping you out. It's pretty cool.
Walking it down.
It's great because, like, as somebody who runs a lot of games at cons and specifically new people through games, that's like the first half hour of every session is, okay, let me show you the character sheet and tell you what all these things do. Much easier if you can just hand them and say, read here. Yep, this thing tells you what they do. Read it.
Absolutely.
You want Americans to read? You poor soul.
Oh, no. Now we're going to get comments, Wes.
I know. I'm a bad person. So my thing with the cards, I can't get them right now because they're literally behind the screen. I have become a deck goblin because of Cypher System and Monty Cook, because all like my ciphers and the monster cards and all that sort of stuff. I really have come to appreciate decks. I don't mind the cards being part of the system. Sometimes I think the way that you exchange cards, it feels like you're exchanging materia in like Final Fantasy VII, which feels a little odd to me. But I think that's just, that ship has sailed, and that's just what people enjoy now. And I do appreciate that this is one way that Darrington Press can actually get people who don't normally buy the books to actually buy into the system, because they're going to buy decks for the classes and subclasses that they want. So brilliant business decision. And I don't knock them for it, because I think they are useful. I don't like the way they're formatted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I will just tell you, the one time I played it at Gamehole Con, I knew I had an ability because I had read it before play had started. I went, I'm going to use that. And for the life of me, it was not glanceable. And when I needed it in combat, it slowed everything down because I'm flipping through these stupid cards looking for it where it was. And it wasn't where my brain wanted the line to be. I think it was like one line up from the bottom instead of at the bottom.
Right.
And just the way that the things are written and are highlighted, it, for my brain, somebody else is going to have a completely different experience. It wasn't glanceable. And so for me, the cards become annoying, even though I think they can be useful.
I 100% agree with you. It was a great business decision. Daggerheart's the publishing arm of Critical Role. They knew exactly their fan base. Their fan base loves buying stuff. I think this was a great way for them to say, look, if you like our stuff, even if you're never going to play the game, here's some stuff you could buy.
You
And
buy
that's
stuff.
true of cards, tokens, just everything else that goes with the game. But them being game designers at heart, they did make sure you don't absolutely need to. But
Yeah.
Jacob, you've played more. So did you find the design of the cards slows down like people especially new to the game?
So the one thing is that there are the domain cards that are your abilities, and then
Yes.
there are cards that represent your ancestry, your background, and that's those I kind of have a more of an issue with. Is I wish you could just write those abilities on your character sheet because it
Because they
doesn't.
don't change, right?
No, yeah, what you don't change your ancestry. Like nobody's like, oh, today you're a completely different being. Once you do that, it's set in stone. The domain cards being your abilities and like the vault, like Wes said, with trading them out, where that is kind of a mechanic in the game, doesn't feel too bad. But I do think when you're handed a pack of cards, and even at level 1, it's 5 or 6 of them, it can be hard. It's one of those things that I feel like if you sit with a character for long enough, you're going to get used to your abilities and get used to the card you need to find. But just to pick it up and go is like, all right, let me see. It's almost like, have you played a TCG before? Do you know how to pick up a set of cards, read through them, and memorize which is which real fast?
No.
As
I've
an
never
ex-Magic
played a
player,
trading.
yes.
I've never played the trading card
for me,
game.
it works really well because I used to play Magic. So, like, that's easy for me. But I definitely, with running new people through, had people where like I knew their character had an ability applicable to the situation that they just totally didn't know, either didn't know they had or didn't think of at the time, because all of your abilities just sit in a stack next to your character.
Okay. That makes sense. And I've never played I don't think I've ever played a trading card game either. But maybe there's a huge crossover in that chart.
I will say the one thing I wanted to add to that, the quality of the cards themselves is really good.
That's
the
great.
stock is great.
The stock, like the printing, all of that is fantastic. The cards themselves are beautiful. I have the binder from Darrington Press.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can
I got
blur my background. So they have a character folio.
Oh yeah,
where all the cards can be organized.
Ooh, you got that. I got this one.
Nice.
So yeah, this is Darrington sent me this after Gamehole Con.
How many hours of game? How many hours of Daggerheart did you run?
0.
That game. Oh, I was okay.
No, that was They sent the folio because I got called out during a comedy show for Daggerheart.
That's right.
And I rules lawyered the DM, and then corrected them several times. And afterwards, they offered to send me something. So having the folio is really nice. All of those cards are organized by like printing number at the bottom, which is their like set number.
Okay.
So it's super easy to find anything because it's all perfectly organized. A big shout out to my wife who has reorganized it like 3 different times because I tried to do it the first time and didn't work very well.
Way to go, Chevy.
All right. Well, the design of the cards is a great segue into actually opening the book itself. So, but since I'm a lifelong designer, we can talk for a second about the design. As Elise points out in chat, there are 2 ribbons. That's great. Always get bonus points for ribbons. There are also the page edges. You've got the colored sort of tabs to tell you what section things are in. I don't know how many people like that, but I love it. I think it's never going to hurt, and it can only help.
It's a very big plus. Very big plus.
I was intrigued by the design, the type choice, particularly the headlines and subheads, because they're like a modern sans serif typeface, something that you just don't see. Like so many of our fantasy books are, I need to make this look like it was printed in the Middle Ages. And I fall into that trope too. But I thought that was an interesting choice to say, we can still be fantasy and make it look like it's 2000 something.
You know what's interesting is they took a couple of design concepts from Monty Cook Games. Like the idea that
takes from everything, but
I know, but I like
go
but
on,
that
Wes.
the sans serif font,
Yes,
the accent color for each chapter
yes,
being there. So it was I appreciate some of the cool things that they took from Money Cook Games and added it. I understand everybody borrows from everybody, but I like that
yeah,
specifically because Cypher was one of their inspirations. So I think they took some of the design concepts from them as well.
you're
I
right.
think that's one of the things, like initial ways I describe Daggerheart to people when they ask me about it, and even the book itself. If you read like the introduction, it says it is a modern system, and those kind of elements are kind of why I think it feels that way. Like what gives it a modern feel is that
Mm-hmm.
it uses those. If you do have like the PDF copy of the book, I'm a huge fan that the table of contents and the index are clickable. You can click the thing and go to where you want, which is a huge plus for me. uh, Whenever you're going back through a rule book and you're like, I want to find this, if I have to go to the index and then find the page number manually in a modern PDF is very frustrating.
Yeah, when you have the
Yep.
PDF being clickable, it's a very nice feeling.
Right.
So, and I just put
So
your "This is a modern approach" quote in the chat.
there you go. Yeah, that's a great point. And I just was teasing Wes because everybody borrows from everybody. But these, it's maybe worth pointing out that the people you see on screen in Critical Role didn't write this book, although Matthew had a lot of influence. There are
Yeah.
real world experienced designers who wrote this. Spencer Stark was the lead designer. He started out, he did work on Kids on Brooms. He did Alice is Missing, which you may love or hate, but everyone should check out. And, you've got Rowan Hall is there. So it was actually designed by people who really knew pretty much every game that's out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't knock them for their design chops at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. What about the design of the book? What else about the design of the book there, Jason?
Wes and I have argued back and forth a little bit about how hard it is on our eyes. I'm not wearing my glasses now, but my glasses are stronger prescription than Wes's, I suspect.
Probably.
It's not the main text is not as easy to read as it could be. It's true of a lot of TTRPG books.
I hate the body font. I hate it. I can't read it. If I don't have really, 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 really bright light,
wow, that's a lot of reallys.
Okay. I cannot read it, or it gives me a headache, and it slows my reading down to the book.
I think this is a printing issue that the book is 366. I don't think they wanted to go over 400.
Yeah.
And even bumping the main text by a point would get you there. I'm pretty sure.
And we had argued a little bit because I know you have history in font design. Like, fonts better than I do. I think you know more about fonts in your pinky than I do in my entire body. But to me, it feels, or I'm perceiving it as the glyphs being smaller, which you had said is probably because it could be a little bit of a better or a higher weight.
I think I think you're right that ideally you would want a larger point size, but there's very little contrast. It's a light font. I think it's a book weight. And I wonder if they couldn't have used a medium weight instead, a little bit heavier, gives you a little more contrast, but it doesn't blow the page count out. 366 will probably become 384. So
yeah, and I understand 8-point font it's
really small.
But that's also industry standard. But it is small, and when you're using a very low contrast font, it just makes it very difficult to read.
Right, it is true.
So I find myself, to me, it feels like the glyphs are smaller than they actually are.
Right, and of course, the reason that's the standard is not because they want to make old people mad. It's because print costs keep going up, and we need to keep our page count down.
Yep.
All right, let's actually talk about what's in the book.
Sure.
So Daggerheart is not a D20 game, I would say, but it does have character classes, and many of them are taken from your favorite D&D or Pathfinder or those types. Personally, I would have made different choices. I was never crazy about Sorcerer and Wizard being a different class. They kept that.
Yeah.
I don't yet fully understand, and Jacob, you can help me with this one. There's a ranger, but I don't really understand the difference between guardian and warrior because those words are so similar.
Yeah, I actually have my
they're
own gripes about those.
yeah, and then the winged class is really like, I'm like, oh, winged, really
We can
help
fly
a
from the
GM
start.
out.
Yeah,
Stop giving them,
seriously.
stop giving them flight.
But at
Anyway,
least, listen,
but
at
what do
least
you
it's
guys?
not minis by default. So I don't have to worry about, like, then you use stupid elevation things to put stuff on.
But
I
that's
can
very
just,
much my personal bias. What do you guys think about the choices of the character classes available? You cool with them?
it's, to me, there's overlap. You're pulling from classic fantasy tropes. So I kind of understand it. The guardian and the warrior, I'm trying to figure out, like, the reason why they're separate is because they draw from different domains. Am I right for that, Jake?
Yeah.
Is that the idea? So they're a little bit different.
That makes sense thematically. Yeah.
And just speaking as someone with my vocation, I thought it was really interesting that they just completely jettisoned the concept of a cleric. So that was fun.
I think the cleric gets rolled into Seraph.
It basically
Seraph
gets
was,
it basically just gets rolled into it. It is, but it's
right.
gone.
It
It's
clearly
gone.
avoided priest, but
Yes,
any kind of
they didn't
term
want
like
that.
yeah, that was
Which
interesting.
I thought was, just because of what I do for a living, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I don't care, but I thought that was an interesting thing, and I see that more and more lately. But I do think they're split up because of the domains that they come from.
Yes, that's true.
I am much more of a rules light type guy. I actually think that you get more out of less choice. So this is almost an embarrassment of riches, to where you have so much, and when you go to look at it, there's just this flood coming at you. That's how I perceive it. There are a great many people out there. They're like, gimme, 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 gimme. And that is the way that these folks enjoy playing the game, because they want to be able to switch out all the cool things and all the widgets and get stuff in. So for me, it's too much. I can deal with it, but just to me, it's just like, I don't need 18 of everything. Just let me get my core 4 and I'm out. So that's kind of where I am. But I'm an old guy yelling at clouds at this point.
So I guess I'll give the third perspective to that, which is, in design, there's this concept of elegance, which is really like, how far does your design go? Like, and that is both how far can you push it, and also how hard is it to interact with? Like, what's the cost? And I talk about this a lot when I talk about RPG systems, with like cognitive load or choice overload.
Yeah.
How hard is it to work with? And part of the problem with the classes, that I agree with Wes, is like, you gave me classes that all have 2 domains specifically, and then went through I guess like an arbitrary list of which combinations you wanted, and mapped those to traditional fantasy classes, and said that's enough. We want to do 8.
Yeah.
So like, you could have just said, each class is one set domain, and you get to choose your second one. And even though that would be more choice, then I go like, okay, each class, like, we have a class that represents that domain as a core concept, and you get to pick a second one to flavor it or something. But that's not really what they did.
Right.
And this is something that kind of holds true throughout a lot of Daggerheart, where they do this sort of awkward dance around, we want to give you flexibility and choice and let you do anything, but we don't actually want you to do that.
We want it to feel like D&D, but it's not.
Yeah, we want to feel like choice without actually giving you that choice, because that's the issue there is, like, if you do that, it's harder to balance. Right? If you say anybody can combine a domain here, now when you're doing it, if you're thinking about balance and numbers and stuff, you got to go through and say, like, what are all of the different combinations of domain, and who's going to come up with some wacky thing that lets them blow up the world because the rules say so.
Right. I should say, if you just tuned in, for me, this game is very different than D&D, but I've started in the beginning of chapter 1. The places where it gets very different are in mechanics later on.
Yes.
So you still have a class-based.
It's still class.
They do, instead of race or species, we get ancestry and community. This is kind of similar to what Kobold Press did in Tales of the Valiant. You separated two different things. So your ancestry being like, what were my biological parents really? And then community to say, did I come from a nomadic tribe or a high city or that kind of thing? That way you're not saying all dwarves are like this, which is cool.
Sure. I like that split.
I think this is where they got the most creative because there's some odd ancestries. Go ahead, Jacob.
On the ancestry section, this is like one of my favorite sections in the book. I think like the layout and stuff is fantastic. Each ancestry is a short description, not of what it looks like, but sort of their lifespan or how they act. And then you get a lot of like concept art and variation as to how that could look. And that's way better than one like static, this is what an elf is type of image when I have, here's like 7 or 8 different things and they all look like different people.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen any actual play or read the book, you've got, for ancestry, some of the more interesting ones. You've got a clank, which is maybe roughly equivalent to a warforged.
Yeah.
But you've got a turtle species, which is Galapo. And I hear a lot of comment about that. That does not bother me at all. As far as the names, there's a cat-based species called Katari with a K. This is where I said, this is where they were like, oh, let's just have fun. And of course, they have the ribbit, the frog person. And I am pretty sure when this book was released, it was 6 months before I heard of anybody playing a game where somebody didn't play a ribbit. I was like, why would you not want to play like a sapient frog?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like watching the mallard on the Dragonbane cover. Like everybody's like, I want to play Angry Duck. Let's go.
Exactly like that. Yes.
Here's my thing with the ancestries, because there are so many that overlap with 5e. Like you have the dragon guy, and the more that I encounter them, the more I'm like, man. And I know they couldn't have done this because people would have flipped. But man, do I wish they would have said, you know what? We're not doing any of the ancestries from D&D or traditional fantasy. We are going to make our own thing. I would have loved it. And people would have wigged out because they want to play their elf. They want to play their tortoise people. They want to play the frog. They want to play the dragonborn. I understand that they couldn't do it. But man, wouldn't it be cool to see a high fantasy game that didn't have elves? Or dwarves or halflings, and they just create their own things. And because they split ancestry and community, they really could have gone crazy. So that was for me. I like how they laid it out. I think they implemented it really well, but part of me is just like, man, it was such a cool moment where they could have just literally just gone full blank slate and done whatever they wanted to do.
I think that would be interesting for us as readers of the book. But I think one of the things is that if you're asking people to learn a new system and everything is different,
they want familiarity.
The one thing you might want, even more than familiarity, just let me remember something. I don't remember the name of the long-eared people who are good with bows. Well, if they're just elves, you're going to remember.
I'm just saying, get rid of the whole concept.
Blame them for that.
No, I don't blame them at all. I don't know they can't, but man, that back part of me is going, man, this could have been something really unique.
It's like a lot of sci-fi games, right? We've got to memorize what all these other made-up species.
Yeah, it goes back to cognitive load again. So
I think that's, especially when you're doing a fantasy game and you're competing with D&D and Pathfinder and stuff, is like
it's still there.
You're not going to you're predominantly hoping people convert from what they're doing, and they're not going to convert if you just straight up don't support anything from that system.
That is a great point, Jake.
It's a very good point. I knew they couldn't do it. I just wish they would have.
I've seen that, people coming from other, D&D, and they're trying Pathfinder or a Cypher system, and you do get that. Well, my half-elf sorcerer, how do I make that in your system? So yeah. I shouldn't say half-elf though, because but
it
close
doesn't exist
enough
anymore. Yes. No, that's you get that in Cypher all the time. People are not like, I don't understand. I'm like, it's just a word. Have fun.
So we also have 6 ability scores, which is pretty common. I don't blame them for leaning into that trope. They're called traits. They don't directly map. We have no map to Constitution, but we do have a separate ability for agility and finesse. And at first, that made me go, but otherwise, traits are as we'd expect, I guess. What do you guys think about those?
I like that they broke from D&D there. I think that's one of the places where it was kind of cool. They're just like, we're going to do our own thing. Have fun. Here we go. And there's still 6. There's a general overlap on some of the things, but I like that they went and did their own thing. It was fun.
Yeah.
I really appreciate not having Constitution.
Yeah.
Partially because to me, like your attributes or traits or whatever, they're things that you actively do. Like you actively engage that is a talent that you have. No one actively engages their health. I've never heard anybody be like, I got the flu and I literally fought it off. Like I engaged my body's immune system.
I'm sorry. Are you watching the news with what our government's doing right now?
Well, if you think about it, though, that's a great point, Jacob, because all my other ability, if you say a dragon's charging at you, and I say, oh, I better use my wisdom, I better use my dexterity, I better use my intelligence, what are you going to use your Constitution for? Just stand there and take it, I guess. It's not very...
the usage of Constitution is getting hit in the face. That's right. My talent is doing nothing and still coming out on top.
I can fight off poison by force of will.
Right. It's just not as fun, right? Because you're not actually...
I totally understand.
Like, it's very passive, yeah. So, yeah, you're right.
But Jake just made every raw milk drinking person on the planet upset. That was okay. So...
All right, let's jump into things that are, in my view anyway, very different. We've got domain cards. We've also got experiences, which sound like they're part of a typical backstory, but they aren't. You're actually using them in the game when they're appropriate. Some of these, I think Jacob could explain more than I could from reading them because I kind of got it, but I wonder how it plays, the domain cards.
The domain cards?
Yeah. Well, no, and the experience.
Experience is more, I think.
Yeah. The domain cards, I mean, like I said before, having a lot of them can be, I think, a little overloading off the bat, but once you get comfortable, it's not too bad. I do like the concept, Daggerheart is the concept of the vault, which is you can only have 5 cards at a time. Once you have 5, you're full. But your other ones go in the vault, and then you can expend stress as a resource to switch a card from your vault if you really need it. And that helps because as you level, you're getting more powerful cards. Yeah. So you only have 5 of those to track at any one time, and they're generally going to be your more powerful ones.
Yeah, that's the material loadout from Final Fantasy VII. Yeah.
So, it's also the way equipment works in Blades. So yeah, take the good stuff, right? But in here, it's even more important than equipment and Blades because that's just whether I have my rope or not. So yeah.
Yeah, the domain cards are very specific. I will say the one thing I've told several people now, I'm not actually as big a fan of playing Daggerheart as I am running it. I really enjoy jamming the system. Like I like the system. I'm not a huge fan of playing it because I do tend to be a crunchier mechanical player. Okay. And when you look at the domain cards and their abilities, the one thing that they don't do is Daggerheart really, really avoids like ability synergy.
Okay, talk to me about this. What do you mean?
So, like a lot of times when I play a character, right? If I want to build a character in this traditional fantasy system, a lot of times I'm looking for inspiration on like a mechanic or a type of thing I want my character to do.
Right.
So if I want to be really good at grappling, I'm going to make a character that's good at grappling. So do I get bonuses to grapple, get bonuses to attack? However you get things for grappling, I'm going to do that.
Okay.
Daggerheart doesn't give bonuses that way, and their abilities don't synergize in that way. So I can't go through the domain cards and say, oh, I want all of the things around grappling because they aren't there. You're not going to pick up abilities that just say you're better at attacking or you're more efficient in doing this. For me, as a player that is more mechanical and like wants that sort of complexity, it feels like the domain abilities end up a little hollow, where I look at them and go like, these are just sort of 5 random things I can do, and I struggle to find a theme other than my theme being like, they're all green cards, so they have something to do with nature.
they're all green cards. I love it.
The pink ones have things to do with social and presence roles, that kind of thing.
Now, this is, can I just say, but this would be how Daggerheart would want you to use experiences then, though. Because you can synergize your experiences. I can use more than one experience at a time.
Yeah.
So, and I am the opposite. Like, please stop giving me things. I just want to play the game. Like, I don't care. I don't want to sit there and spend, like, I can throw this widget here and do this widget over here and do this. So that's actually one thing where I appreciate about Daggerheart that I actually feel I can jump in. The card just kind of somehow get in the way of that for me. But I like the way experiences replace skills from 5e, because I'll tell you right now, I hate skills from 5e, because the people who try to use, like, I use perception as lie detecting, that I've, played with and watched. I roll perception. What are you doing? Like, I roll perception for what? Where? Like, what? It's a 50 by 30 room. Where are you looking? No, I roll perception because it's just the background. But in Daggerheart, you have this experience where, like, I am using this experience to do this. That's the way the game is designed. People don't have to play it that way. They can just like, can I use my experience? And they can, but you're supposed to narrate how you use your experience. And that I kind of like, in the fact that you can synergize one or more experiences to, like, really adjust your role, is something that I kind of like too.
So I mentioned experiences with backstory. That's more limiting. That sounds more limiting than it actually is, because you gain more experiences as you go. So that's cool.
You both gain more experiences and you get to upgrade the ones you have.
Yeah.
Which does feel nice from, like, a character development point of view, to be either my character is getting broader or I'm getting deeper in the things I'm already good at.
Right.
I will say there's an interesting rule in the book that actually the player is the final say on whether an experience applies or not, not the GM.
That's interesting. Yeah.
The book explicitly calls that out, that the player is the final arbiter on whether an experience applies or not.
Right.
So,
which is,
with the domains cards being kind of, like you said, Jacob, they're less, it's not like, oh, I do double damage with an axe, right? Less specific. Do you think, is that because this is trying to lean into, we're a narrative first game, and that but it does make the player do more work? I have to find a way to narrate this into what I want to happen.
I think the design purpose is to keep the cognitive load low. Like Wes said, if you have cards that start to interact with each other, now the game just gets significantly more complex, both when you're choosing the cards and when you're using them.
Right.
Like, if I have to remember, of my 5 cards, I have 1 card that lowers the cost of other cards. Now, that's just a lot.
Yes.
Because functionally speaking, everyone is a caster in this game. Like, functionally speaking. Functionally.
Nope.
You don't think so?
So that is actually the issue that I have with specifically Guardian and Warrior. Of the 8 classes in the book, 6 of them have spellcasting traits. Guardian and Warrior do not have spellcasting traits and are not spellcasters.
No, I understand that. I'm saying functionally. Because you've got all the abilities, you're doing the same goofy stuff.
Oh,
it's just you're just not casting.
Everyone is the same.
That a domain card seems like a spell, then kind of.
Yeah, it's functionally it's same thing. It's just narrated differently.
Yeah, there's no difference. I think this is one of the things that jumps out to players, is that a lot of times when you're talking about D&D Pathfinder, other class systems, classes have unique feelings to playing them.
Yeah.
Like, you use specific mechanics just because you are that class.
Mm-hmm.
Daggerheart doesn't do that as much. Because your domain cards are all abilities and everyone gets them, all the classes tend to feel more similar to each other than what your traditional, like, hard class system would use.
Yeah. The balance is nice. but that you get a little bit of, you lose the distinctiveness in that symmetry.
And I do think from a design standpoint, they approached it as like the class features deliver on the feeling of that class, not the domain cards.
Well, and I'll go right back to experiences. I think you're supposed to lean on experiences to differentiate your character.
Oh yeah.
To build those. And Chibi, I think, put it in the thing. It was a really nice narrative plus mechanical tie-in. I think experiences were brilliant.
I think experiences are far superior to any skill system. I'm also I dislike the any system that says like decide your skills or decide your specialties or however they want to phrase it. I always hate them because it's like I have to decide the scope. Now I have to like work with the GM and it's too broad, too narrow, whatever. Experiences are the perfect way to say like you get to decide on your own, but this isn't a skill. This is not perception. This is an experience that you've done something in life or you care about something
that you can lean on.
The narrative might give you an advantage in. And I did have really interesting experiences running the same characters at a convention multiple times, where I actually had players who used an experience in a situation, and the following player to play that character in the exact same role looked up at me and said, I don't know how I would apply this experience to this situation.
Yeah, because we're all bringing different things to the character, so we're going to apply those experiences in completely different ways. Yeah.
And it was cool to see that, like, that exact thing come up and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense because you have the same experiences, but you're playing it differently because you're approaching, like, your perspective of your character is different.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's a convention, so they're pre-generated characters. They don't.
Right.
These players are
build these. Yeah.
Yeah, they're coming up with this on the fly, but even then, what they came up with was so different that they couldn't understand how they would apply an experience, as opposed to the previous player who was like, "Oh yeah, this experience is perfect for this situation."
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really good.
All right. I was thinking we could move on to, so chapter 1 is character creation. Chapter 2 really gets us into how the game flows. But before I jump into, say, Spotlight, did we miss anything from character creation that you guys want to bring up?
I did want to ask you guys, since we're talking kind of about the chapters, the one thing I found with the sort of the sidebar color and the chapter titles and stuff, every chapter is colored in a very monotone color scheme. Like chapter 1 is green and all of the headings are green.
Yes.
And the subheadings are green.
Yeah.
Which felt a bit odd to me. Whereas, like, well, I would kind of wish some of these, like, the text color was a little bit different. Or I do like that they bold certain pieces of text where you're supposed to pay a hope or mark a stress or something.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure for, like, your graphical design background. Should they have used different colors within the chapter?
So I brought this up at the beginning. This is one of the things I think they learned, or at least looked at, from Monte Cook games, because this is a Monte Cook staple. Every chapter has its own accent color, and that takes on the border, the heading, the footer decorations, the like underlines and the border decorations and everything. And it's a way to visually show what chapter you're in. It's one of my favorite things about Monte Cook games for their book design, and I do appreciate that that's how they did it in Daggerheart. I can see it's like, I want a little bit more differentiation. I can also see that, but I appreciate they're like, nope, this is the theme for this chapter, and that's what we're going through. And you can see how the same design elements change in every chapter throughout the book. And it's really a visual cue as to where you are, which is why, Jason was pointing out at the beginning, like, you can look on the side, you can see, well, as soon as the color changes, I know that I've gone to a different section.
Yeah.
So that it's like I go through. So it's really, really helpful for flipping, probably less helpful for PDFs because you don't need it as much. So because you can just go right to that page.
As an art director, when you're setting up layout rules, you have to make this choice, right? Exactly what Jacob's talking about. That if the tabs and the header and the page and everything is forest green for character creation, you're giving the reader additional information than just what the text says, right? It says, oh, this is where the information on the Guardian is, but also this is character creation chapter. But you're doing in that at the possible annoyance of the reader who is looking for something, who is bored, right? So that's the line that I can convey additional information this way, but I can make it more interesting this way. And that's why I'm not an art director. It's not it's not an easy question.
So with
but
that
I
said,
can see the point.
We did also skip over something mentioned in chapter 1.
Go.
Which is the world overview.
Yes.
Daggerheart doesn't have a canonical world, but it does inform a lot about the setting in how it lays out rules and describes things.
Yes.
How do you guys feel about? I'm on the fence about whether I like how Daggerheart handles its not technically canon pseudo setting.
It felt mushy to me. This is, I think, which is basically restating what you just said. What do you think, Wes?
I really don't care. I one of the things, and it's strange because I run Numenera now as one of my games, and I love it. And I just finished a Dragonbane campaign. But one of my things that I love to do is actually just take the stuff that's there and roll it into my own world, and I'll pick and choose what I want. So for me, not having all that information in the book to where I now have to weed through it all to get into what I want to do with the game is helpful. So I appreciate that they do to it. And I started in basic D&D, which didn't have any of that stuff. We had to keep on the Borderlands. We didn't know the Borderlands to wear. And then when you got to the expert set, then suddenly we had a world. And we're like, oh, I'm in a world. So I've been in both places. AD&D doesn't have, in the player's handbook, doesn't have a world, right? Not in the player's handbook.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of what we're talking about is that it doesn't have, right. So AD&D 5e is set. Well, AD&D doesn't have a world. 5e is set in the Forgotten Realms,
correct?
Not in the player's handbook, right? You get a lot less of that. Like you might, it might say this species is more likely to be found in the mountains, but they're not going to tell you this species is more likely to be found at Baldur's Gate. So it is separated, but this is, I think Jacob's right. This is different, right? Because we're not talking about countries, but we have like a cosmology, right? That this is, the upper.
It's surprising that a system that goes out of its way to not give a name or setting to its world starts on page 1 with here's the cosmological layout.
I'm glad you brought that up because
it didn't bug me, but I understand.
For most of the first 10 years of 5e coming out, that was the most seen, most heard complaint about the DM's guide, that it starts with world building, right? And they specifically did not do that with the 2024. And now, hey, guess what? Here's some world building.
And here's the funny thing: so talk about experiences that we bring to the game. The thing that has interested me the least in all settings of D&D are the planes of existence.
Yeah.
Like I like all the drawings, I remember all the drawings from like the DMG and like from old AD&D, and I was like, I don't care. I just want to play the game. And so I read this, and my brain skipped it because I don't care. But if you actually are like, if this is something that intrigues you, and you're trying to like, we don't have it, you would definitely trip over this. So I totally understand.
It's hard to know, I think, what the right decision is, right? That, and a lot of it depends on, do I think my critters who have never played a game before are reading this book, or do I think I'm getting players who used to play D&D?
But that is, it felt a lot like, because throughout the rest of the book, even there's not There's not a named city, country, kingdom, anything.
Right.
But on page 1, we established that there are the hollows above, the circles below. There was a war between the gods, and the forgotten gods have been driven into hell. And that's the entire setting of the book.
I totally
Matt
missed
Mercer
that.
wrote a book without telling me Matt Mercer wrote a book. Oh, well, there was a war between the gods, and that's the entire premise of the setting. Is like, okay.
I think it's strange. You're right.
I love the fact that I totally missed it. Now Jason brings up, that's all I can see. I'm like, oh gosh, that was weird.
I think it would be intimidating for a new player. They just want to know, can I swing my sword or do I cast a spell? So, like, give me character creation. But I also wonder what it does to a new game master. Because is that telling you subtly, hey, by the way, you can't start in the village of Hamlet. You need to know what you're like, who created your universe.
And after page 1, it's never mentioned again. Seraphs are sort of clerics, but they're not really religion related. And there are demons in stat blocks, and that's it. There's no other mention of it. So to me, like, being on page 1, if you open the book and the first thing it tells you is that that's going on, that's an introduction. Like that. If I do that, I'm expecting Exandria. Not
so you pointed out, like, tell me that Matt Mercer was involved in writing the book without telling me that Matt Mercer was involved in writing the book. I totally understand. Is this a result of the fact that you do have people who are very gifted actors and narrative developers who are looking for that page 1 grab for people's like, here is what, like, the stories you can tell with this cool game? Like, is this a result of that? Is that the product of it? And you as a game designer are going, why is this never mentioned again?
Well, why is it never mentioned if you're going to put it on page 1? I would have no problem if this was the last page of the section and it said, like, oh, by the way, like, here's a little bit of a thing about how Daggerheart worlds kind of run that we're going to reference. Totally fine. But for you to open the book that way, it's an introduction that is completely unrelated. If you just ripped that page out and didn't tell somebody, they wouldn't wonder where it was.
Is it the survivor of a draft that had more stuff in it?
I think Jacob's right. This is not a writing problem. This is an editing problem.
Yeah.
Because there are, in the player's handbook in 5e, there are mentions of things like this. They're in the last appendix. So, in case you wanted to look at this, go ahead.
Here it is.
They are going to page 1. And I think you're right.
I am wondering if there was more stuff. I'm wondering if there was more stuff in there and they just never got rid of the intro because it was like, no, this is dynamic. We will keep it.
I do wonder that if there was more of a setting in the initial draft that then got edited out when somebody decided, hey, we don't want to have a hard setting. Let's go pull as much of that out as we can.
Yeah.
The following page describes magic and spells and flavoring your game, which is what I would want the introduction almost to be, as a like, hey, you can't take magic out of Daggerheart. If you want to play a non-magical Daggerheart game, you cannot do that.
Mm-hmm.
It would be, that would be hard.
So saying, hey, this is a magical game by default, it has to be, and that magic can really be flavored in any way you want, perfectly fine introduction.
Cool.
Yeah.
It just starts on page 2.
It is.
And like I said, my brain skipped that because it did not care, because I wasn't going to pay attention to the world anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, the rest of the intro is great. There's the what is an RPG? It's only 2 paragraphs, so it's not going to annoy you. It's
all of the introductory essays were really well done. Yeah.
I will say, for the actual introduction, the only gripe I have, which is a very nitpicky minor thing, I'm very big on how games establish terminology. Because everybody defines what is a player versus a player character, a GM, whatever term they use. In the opening paragraph, they say Daggerheart is meant to be played with 3 to 6 people, known as a group or table. One person takes on the role of GM. The others each play a single character referred to as player characters.
Okay.
In the following chapter, they then say parties are best as 2 to 5 players.
Yep.
Even though player has not been defined as a term, and throughout the book, they refer to players both including and excluding the GM, which is something I have an issue with a lot of rule systems, because that's sort of that finicky thing where you're going to get players who say, oh, the GM is beholden to this rule because this rule refers to players and the GM is a player, versus other systems where people say the GM is not a player, so they're not beholden to those rules. And like it's a nitpick, but it is one that like I think causes friction between otherwise non-problematic players, where the expectation of the rule is just different.
Jacob with the pickup. Very good point. Because we bring assumptions to the table. Well, we all know what a player is, but
editing is hard. For those writers out there, get a good editor.
Yes, absolutely. No, good. Jacob with the two really good points.
Yeah.
And he likes the game.
We could all like the game. We're here to nitpick.
No, I like the idea. Is like you can nitpick something and like the game
and still like the game.
This is a lost art.
Very good.
Yeah.
As a system,
but there's nitpicks.
I don't have plenty of things to critique it on.
Yeah. We would not have a stream right now if we didn't have things to critique it on. That's good.
Right.
All right, Jason, take us to chapter 2.
Here's I think where we really differentiate ourselves from a lot of other fantasy D20s is with the spotlight mechanics. In particular, we don't have initiative. So we are literally moving the spotlight. As a GM, you're probably always thinking about spotlight as in don't let your quiet players go an hour without doing something. This literally has which character is in the spotlight, and relative to hope and fear.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think well, actually, maybe we should start with Jacob. He has more experience.
Sure.
So I have a question for you guys real quick.
Sure.
Trivia question. Because I think you've both played Pathfinder.
Nope.
2E.
No?
No.
Okay, no, actually, no, that's not true. I did play one funnel. I played like one session of Pathfinder 2E.
I've seen a lot of Pathfinder actual plays, but I've never actually played it.
So the thing I really love about Spotlight, and the thing that contrasts it versus something like Pathfinder 2E, is a lot of people in Pathfinder 2E assume that actions are used in combat. Or they're used narratively when you say, I want to use blank action to do this.
Right.
But actually, if you read through Pathfinder, your character is always doing actions. Yeah. Even when you're narratively exploring, you're supposed to be using exploration actions that dictate how you're approaching the scene or the situation.
Yep.
Good Never point. Played that way. I've played a lot of 2E. Never played that. Nobody plays that way. Nope. Nobody asks you what action you're using when you're in narrative scenes.
I roll perception. Right. So the problem with that is like that's the cognitive load thing. It is way too hard to memorize all of these different actions all the time and always be acting in like pseudo initiative order.
Yep.
Spotlight basically solves all of that by saying, one person at the table is in control of the narrative at a time. And that person gets to kind of make the decision on what's going on. If somebody has a problem with that, then we roll dice.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point because in this game, combat is not a sub game. It is in Pathfinder, it is in 5e, it's in a lot of games where we're doing it this way, and then you want to hit something? Now we're doing this other game.
Yep, the new game starts.
You're right. This is a very strong way of saying that's not true, right? Everything works the same.
There are no modes of play, which is usually what I call those. Is like
sure.
You switch from narrative mode to combat mode to social mode if you're changing the rules of the game.
Yep.
Spotlight doesn't do that. You're just always using the Spotlight system.
I would like to point out Mike is using an action to type a response to this live stream. It's very good. Good use of your action. You have two actions left.
Yeah.
I really like the concept of Spotlight.
Yeah.
I really do. I like the idea that if I fail a roll, GM can take Spotlight. I like the idea that if I want to spend hope, I can pass it on to somebody else in my party and let them go. It keeps the narrative structure of the game intact no matter what's going on. So there almost there doesn't need to be modes of play.
Right. And there are many games that try to do that, even with an initiative order, try to encourage teamwork to say the players can act in whatever order they want. But this, I think, moving the spotlight between, like, the players go until they don't go, and then the GM's NPCs act. And that can be triggered by hope and fear, or spending fear tokens. But that's interesting, right? That you could potentially have a player go, another player, many characters go before the adversaries don't act.
And I'll say in play, well, I say two things. One, there's an optional rule for tracking spotlight where people don't take it repeatedly. In practice, I have never had to use that and have never had any issue with that. Partially, I'm a proponent of, like, if there's a problematic player like that at the table, that's like a social issue that you need to address.
It's not a mechanical. Yeah, it's not a mechanical issue. Yeah.
Yeah, I usually call those like skill issues in RPGs. Like, RPG can't address you being bad at playing games with other people. That's not what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother psychology book.
The other thing is the fact that the players keep spotlight when they're succeeding and or rolling with hope. It really, there's this really cool and like Daggerheart describes itself as an epic narrative. There's a cool momentum that builds when that starts to happen. Like when players take 3 actions without adversaries doing anything, there's suddenly like extra tension of, oh, this is big, like we're snowballing through this,
right?
And you get that momentum, that tension, and the GM gets to go, yeah, until I interfere. Like I get to play the bad guy and say, no you don't, my turn.
Yep. I love it. One of my favorite games is superhero game. Streamline is a Sentinel Comics RPG, which uses a spotlight concept that's a little bit different. And there's a strategy in it because the person goes and then chooses the next player, and you can let all the enemies go last, but then the problem is all the enemies go last. So there's that dread of, like, wait a minute, these guys can mess us up and we won't be able to do anything about it. And I like that in Daggerheart, the GM can do that at any time. I'm just like, here I go, blink, and there goes the fear token, and I get to go now. And I think that's kind of fun.
That's the cool part where, like, fear does that across the whole narrative. Like, you don't even have to be in combat to see fear and have the players go like, that's a lot.
Yeah. Yep. Let's skip ahead to for viewers who haven't read the book or haven't played yet. Hope and fear. So this is not a D20 system. This is a 2D12 system mostly.
Unless you're the GM.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we could talk about that later. But you're rolling 2 die. One of them with different colors or something. One of them being hope, one of them being fear, and you're trying to hit a target number. And there's lots of additions. But if either of those is meets this target number, you are successful, kind of, at doing what you want. But
no, it's the addition of them has to add
yeah. So if hope is higher than fear, that's good for your friends. If fear is higher than hope, that's bad. That's bad in that it's good for the GM, roughly speaking.
Yeah.
So the GM is storing fear tokens, which they can spend to act, to do various things, and the players are storing hope tokens, which they can use.
There's a maximum number of hope that a player can have at a time, right?
Yeah,
6. Which is just like in real life, because we can't be that hopeful. You're limited.
Players can have up to 6 hope. Technically, the GM also is, I think, limited to like 15 fear maximum or something. There is like a maximum number given, but if you hit that, you're not GMing the system properly.
Right. You're supposed to be spending the fear. Yeah. So, yeah, I So one of the complaints that I've seen about Daggerheart, and I think Bob Worldbuilder brought this out, is that if you roll and whether you succeed or fail with hope or fear, you're supposed to narrate the success with that hope or fear.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to. Mechanically, if I succeed with fear, the GM gets a fear token and he gets the spotlight, or she gets the spotlight, or they get the spotlight. If I succeed with hope, then I get a hope token, and then I get to pass, the spotlight gets passed on to something else. So mechanically, that's basically it, right? But narratively, something is supposed to be tweaked in the system, and you talked about cognitive
is an
load.
editing issue.
Okay,
or a writing issue. So that is literally what the sentence says if you're reading rolling with hope and fear. Is that there are consequences or complications from your actions.
Right.
I think the issue is that the consequences and complications is that the GM now gets to take a turn. That is
okay.
You don't, and when I run this, I don't tend to run fear unless it's some crazy, like you fail with fear, which is supposed to be sort of your critical failure type scenario.
Yeah. Like something extra is happening.
Where you kind of kick somebody while they're down when that happens. I run it as like you rolled with fear, so if you succeed, you just do the thing, but now I get to make a move. So if my move is to immediately interfere with you, that's the consequence. Gotcha. And I might say, you try to do that, and since I get to go now, I'm going to interfere with your attempt and like act to negate it or something in response.
So you think that it's not about me narrating something tweaking in the system? Because they have examples where like, well, for example, this could happen after that.
Yeah.
But I have to go back and read the examples now. Is that all GM moves because they suddenly get to go?
Yeah, so that's Daggerheart calls any action a move.
Mm-hmm.
That players technically make moves when they describe their character doing something. The GM takes moves when they describe the enemies doing something. Right. So that is when you roll with fear or you fail on an action, the GM gets to make a move.
Gotcha.
The GM can also spend a fear to intercept the spotlight and make a move immediately, or spend a fear while making a move to retain the spotlight and do further things.
Right.
And the GM can only keep the spotlight one time, right? Or can they keep spending fear to go?
As far as combat is concerned, each enemy is supposed to only be spotlit once during a sequence of GM moves.
Okay.
And some enemies will have things that say they can be spotlight X amount of times.
Okay.
This is sort of one of the things that I think Daggerheart does that we were just, I think, talking about it right before the stream started, where it's a bit of like training wheels for GMs.
Okay.
So part of this fear thing is that they're using this to teach a GM how much can you damage your players.
Okay.
And yeah, if your players are rolling really poorly, then fear is higher, so you should be doing more stuff. The narrative, if they're rolling poorly, should
the narrative is flowing that way. Yeah.
And vice versa. If they're not rolling with fear, you're building that momentum. The narrative should go up. I think that's something that, like, if you're going to talk about the skill of a GM in like a sort of a vacuum of just how good are you at running a narrative, plenty of GMs can and do that without having anything like fear.
Gotcha.
That's a possible skill. But I have a lot of respect for a system that helps teach someone how to do that naturally and leads to like that becoming a skill that you develop.
And I like that because then you can take that to somewhere else. But I do like the idea of fear as a mechanical wrench. Like I get to gum up the gears now, but there's a limit to it, so I can't do it constantly, which I think it's nice, and you get used to that thing. So I like that.
And I'll say running it because I've been playing TTRPGs for 10 years. I primarily GM and enjoy doing that. So I definitely did things that probably should have spent a fear to do that I just said as the GM I'm doing this because this is good for the narrative.
Right.
Yeah.
But the fact that I could save up a whole bunch of fear and like the scenario I wrote, part of it was I have to spend a big bunch of fear to start an event. Well, when that event starts, the players see me reach into the table, spend 5 fear, and then tell them that they start to hear screaming from the forest. They know stuff's going down.
Something bad is happening. That was a lot that you invested in this. Yeah, let's go.
The narrative is going downwards now, and that is very apparent to the table at both a descriptive and a mechanical level, which I really love.
It's a nice synergy there. King Eric wants to know if higher level monsters add more fear.
No, their fear is just more efficient.
Yeah. So
they would just be better at spending it or get more out of spending fear on monsters that are higher tiers.
They can kill you faster.
So I have a question for the two of you, because you've played it, and I had a concern when I read this that about the hope and fear in general.
Okay.
Does this steer the game towards a more adversarial relationship for GM player? Like when we were in, a million years ago, and we played AD&D, a lot of tables it was that way, right? That the GM's goal was to hurt the players and win combat for the big bad guys, right? But I feel like I'm trying to collect these pieces so I can do something that you don't want, and you're trying to collect it. It seems like it might underline that and make the whole thematic of like philosophical relationship more adversarial. But I have no idea if that's how it actually plays, so I wanted to ask you guys.
I didn't experience that. Now, I had a limited experience playing. But also, I'm used to running Cypher System, which has that concept of GM intrusion, which if you use it badly and vindictively, I can see that becoming adversarial. If you are doing something because you just want to punish the players, that can be adversarial. But I think, as Jacob pointed out when we were talking about one of the players hogging spotlight, I don't necessarily think that's a problem with the mechanic as much as it is with the players at that point. Like, there's just people who are jerks. And maybe it gives them too big a window to be that way in the game.
Well,
but I haven't experienced it.
Yeah, and that is true also, that if you've already got this set up, like this GM wants to win, then you're in trouble no matter what game you play.
Seriously, because they're going to use it.
In this case, it's like, if my goal is to collect these things that are bad for you, and your goal is to collect these things that are bad for me, is that sort of a philosophical problem? Jacob, what do you think?
So, for one, in the introduction where it introduces the role of a GM, it actually does, the sentence specifically says, your role as a GM is not to be adversarial, which is nice.
That's good that was up front then.
It is very upfront, yes.
If you read the book, it told you that.
Right.
You will be a fan of the players. Actually, I just started reading the next chapter. It's like, you will do this. That's part of the idea.
And I think fear actually has the opposite effect, because I think in traditional GMing, it's up to you to make the judgment call on how for or against the players you are. Like, you have your foot on the gas or the brakes. But Daggerheart says, like, this system informs you how you should influence that. If you're stacking up a bunch of fear, hey, maybe you should push on them a little harder. If you have no fear whatsoever, you kind of got to back off a little bit and wait.
Because you literally don't have the ability to do anything right now.
Yeah.
So,
and even like outside of the mechanical part at the table, if I have a bunch of fear, I'm not going to be like, oh, screw you, I'm doing a thing. I'm going to be like, hey, dude, I've got a whole lot of fear that I got to spend. Sorry, but it's going to come at you. Like, this isn't personal. It's just what the system wants me to do.
It's just role playing. It's not personal. It's just role playing. So.
All right, good.
So, and I have seen, like, that's actually Modifius in 2D20's got a similar concept with threat versus momentum, and they're very careful. Like, people get very scared about threat because they named it threat, but it really is. It's about creating drama for the narrative is what it comes down to. And if you get a GM that's not going to is not being a jerk, that should be fine.
So moving ahead to damage and health, because I don't want to skip past this one. So something bad happens to you. The GM says there's this much damage. And on your character sheet, you have different levels to say, oh, that much damage for me is a minor effect versus a major effect versus a critical. I forget what the super bad term is.
Minor, major, and severe.
And then whatever category that falls into tells you how many hit points you actually lose.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to bring in, we have a comment from Calvin in our
I'll find it.
In our in Discord chat earlier, who had said the way you can do high damage but then mark a limited number of HP is a really interesting subsystem with surprising depth of repercussions. I have to admit this is one of those falls into the might be me, ignore me, go past. Is I read this 3 times and I still didn't really understand it until I read the example of play.
So they had a really good example of play, is what you're saying.
or I'm just very, very slow with math. So what do you guys think?
Jake, you run it. So what do you think?
I love Daggerheart's health system. Absolutely. Cool. It does, for clarification, their rules do mention that the health system is not explicit to the narrative. It actually calls out that, like, if a character jumps into an active volcano, they shouldn't take 3 health.
They just die.
Right.
They die because volcanoes kill people if you dive into lava. But from the narrative perspective, I love the ability from both the player and the GMing side to be able to say, I can deal an infinite amount of damage and it only turns into 3 health. Because narratively, you can do some really insane descriptions that in any other system either feels idiosyncratic because the damage coming out doesn't map well to the narrative description.
I cast Fireball, 8 points of damage.
Yeah, the building collapses and it was a scratch.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make sense. But in Daggerheart, you're like, well, it can only do 3 damage. Unless I'm saying it like insta-kills you for some reason. Yeah. So, yeah, the building collapses, you take severe damage. There's no real way to reduce it. That's just how it is.
Dave from Grimwood Games finds it overly complicated, personally.
Yeah, I have to admit, I think my personal objection from a design perspective is that I'm going to tell you there's 5 points of damage, and you're going to say, okay, 5 equals 2 or 5 equals 1 for me. I'm like, just pick a number. I don't need one number equals this. I don't want to have a different chart. But
so, I mean, these are wound systems, and this is what Cypher's picking up on now too. And Dave, you're in chat. Tell Peter we're talking about wounds. We just need him to pop in and show himself that he's here. So I like the concept. It did take me a little while to grasp it. It's like, okay, I take this much damage and it hurts me this much. There are certain things about it that I like, and there's certain things about it at the same time I'm like, it just feels like it would slow things down. People tell me it does not, but until you get the use of, here's where my wound thresholds are, this is how many armor slots I have, I can knock that off there to knock it down to another room. Until you get that gameplay loop down, it feels like it would chug. And my very limited experience playing, I did not encounter that. I thought it worked pretty fast, surprisingly so. I think partly that's because the character sheet set up really well in that area. The character sheet, it's just set up really, really well. But I can see like how it can gum up. If you get people that really can't grok it, it's going to gum up everything. Whereas hit points are very simple. I take this much damage, I take this point out. Like, that's really simple. But what I love about Daggerheart is it just goes, no, we're not doing bag of hit points. Like, we're just not doing that. Like, this is going to work a different way. Yeah. And I have to applaud them for doing what they did. But I can understand that people would think it's too complicated.
This is also one of the situations that I run, what I guess is like a homebrew modification to the rules. The one thing not mentioned in here is,
how dare you? We're doing a book review.
You can lower the threshold below minor.
Yes.
So like if you would take 1 health point, can you lower it to 0? Which I say yes. Like if a player is taking minor damage and you would spend an armor to reduce it, you can reduce it to 0.
To nothing.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that's in the book, isn't it?
Not technically. So that's the confusing part. They mention if you reduce the damage to 0, like the damage number, but not the health points that you would lose.
I'm just thinking if you take no damage, why would you lose health?
Well, so in the case of reducing the threshold, you are taking damage, but you're finding a way to mitigate that incoming damage.
Yeah, I just think that. Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily correct it as a homebrew. It just seems to be implied in play.
It is a sort of gray area in the rules. I guess I would have rather they have like codified it and said either no, you can't, as in any amount of damage is at least 1 hit point, or yes, you can, and it is possible to reduce it to 0. Because that's the big distinction to me is any amount of damage at least 1 hit point? Do I always do at least 1 damage if I'm hitting somebody?
Yeah, it would be much clearer if they literally said that. By the way,
yeah, I think if you're spending armor, you're mitigating it down because it's basically, to me, it just makes sense.
Yeah,
if I can lower the damage I take by 1 step by spending an armor point, that just makes sense that I could erase.
But if that's the case, and enemies can do it too. Theoretically, your players could get into a loop where they can't beat an enemy because that enemy can reduce.
Well, until you destroy their armor.
Well, if enemies don't typically have armor, so usually they're reducing the threshold by 1 or reducing the amount of damage by a certain.
No, that's a gameplay problem. See, which if you have armor, like you just beat the slots out, then you're destroying the armor.
Yeah,
and I kind of like that because I'm bashing the living daylights out of their armor, and I can narrate that pretty good. But yeah, if they don't have armor, they just don't get to mitigate it, then that kind of sucks.
Yep.
All right, I want to swing back to something because I have a cool quote from Gilgamesh in our server.
I gotta find it.
And Wes touched on this. Gilgamesh says, "Why asymmetrical mechanics for the GM?" I'm really not sure what I think of that. I hope meta currency seems pretty normal, but fear seems a little undefined. Is there a point in the meta currency if the GM can always just define the world by fiat? It's not really clear how it constrains the GM. So that comment's pretty dense, but I think it also swings back to Wes's point. Like, this is a different game for the GM than it is for the players, unlike a lot of D20 games. Although it's not the only game like that. What do you guys think of this?
I'm a huge fan of asymmetrical systems.
I think if it would have been before I started playing Cypher System in Numenera, I would have hated it.
Yes, that is true. Cypher, your bad guys are essentially 1 number, whereas your players have all these abilities.
And I don't roll dice.
Yes.
I don't want to roll dice as a GM. I don't hate rolling dice. Like, I do enjoy getting to roll occasionally.
Yeah.
I hate rolling dice when I have to play the same characters that players are playing because I can't be 30 goblins. I can't roll 30 d20 and all of the damage associated. It's too much.
Yeah.
And it's only too much because I have to roll. I could be 30 goblins if I didn't have to roll dice. So to me, the asymmetrical system is because the roles of the people at the table are asymmetrical. The GM should be able to play infinite NPCs at a time, and players play 1 character.
Mm-hmm.
If you treat those at the same, it's not going to work very well.
But don't you still have to roll the D20 for each?
Yeah, in Daggerheart you do, although they have their own mechanics for handling things like hordes and groups of enemies, as opposed to singular entities.
Cypher does the same thing,
which is pretty common now.
Yeah. I love the idea of group entities because I can throw like 30 creatures at my Numenera group, and it's just 3 people attacking. But it's huge, so it's kind of cool. I just boost their stats.
So I have a short question for you guys. I think there are ranges, like a lot of like postmodern type games where you've just defined it narratively. You don't worry about 5-foot squares as much, but their ranges are divided into melee, very close, close, far, and very far. My immediate reaction was, dude, we don't need that many. Just you can cut the two ends off. But what do you guys think about that?
It's too many. It's there's too many range bands.
Melee is not a range, and I will
You're
find
just
anybody who
you're
says
just
otherwise.
melee.
Oh, it's
yeah.
like
To me, the distinction between melee and very close is there isn't one.
Okay.
Because the book acts as if melee is like zero range, but when people talk about narrative or think about combat, you never think about standing like on top of an opponent. It's always loosely within a 5-foot ish range, and that's not even because of like D&D and like historic RPGs. It's just because people don't literally hold each other chest to chest when they're fighting. They're moving around in a space.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first question. Like, if you told me melee and very close are two different things, I wouldn't know which one's closer. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
And one's 3 feet and one's 5 to 10 feet.
Well, what if you have a halberd? All right.
Then you can attack from very close range. I don't know. It's restrained.
Maybe this one is better for Jacob. So there are mechanics for downtime, which I love. I'm a huge fan of this in games like Blades in the Dark, just about everywhere. But I don't know how it would work in Daggerheart. You essentially, when you're done your mission or whatever, you get, I don't know if this increases later, but at the start you get two general moves that two things you can do in downtime.
Mm-hmm. So Daggerheart downtime actions are essentially rests.
Yeah.
When you rest, which they do have the concept of a short rest and a long rest, you get downtime actions to recover your resources. There is a bit of a weird ruling that you are only allowed to have 3 short rests every long rest, which is like a kind of feels like a weird arbitrary holdover of like D&D's.
Yeah.
Why 3 short rests? Shouldn't that just be narrative based?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is trying to be a smarter way of doing short rests.
Other than that, I do like the idea that like they just said, hey, here's the downtime actions. This is the things you can do when you rest. And then said, like, if it's a short rest, you don't have as much of an opportunity to regain. If it's a long rest, you get to reset most of your stuff.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of defining that downtime with here's certain things that you can do, and there's trade-offs into doing them. So I kind of like how Daggerheart has managed that. It's one of the things I love about Tales of Argosa. Is and it's not always automatic that you're going to get stuff back, which I also like. Well, at least for Tales of Argosa, I don't forget about Daggerheart. But I kind of I like forcing people to do the trade-off. It's kind of cool.
And there are a few domains and abilities and stuff. For instance, the Clanks get to use a long rest downtime even during a short rest.
Oh, nice.
So their like ancestral thing is I guess because you're artificial, you get to recover something completely instead of just a partial recovery. So yeah, there are mechanics that interact with the system.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So
I don't like Clanks. People are going to hate me for it. I don't like Warforged either.
All right. So I have
robots in my fantasy.
I have one more quote I wanted to throw in, and then I figured we can wrap it up with overall comments on the system and pick me on anything I missed that we should talk about. But we have a quote. I pulled a quote from Tiger Wolf, who is very involved on the Discord and had a lot of great points.
Where is he? Where is he? Here he is.
Tiger Wolf said, I like the various questions that are on the character sheets to get folks thinking outside of stats. So I think that's outside of mechanics, more or less, which is interesting because, going way back, right, in D&D, we had, what's your fear and things like that, which nobody ever used and never impacted play. But it feels like this is more involved.
That's a more common thing that I'm seeing in more and more games.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I'll have to tell you, I bounced off of it a lot
You
because
did.
I come from BX. Like I come from real simple game systems. Like let my character figure out who the character is as they go through their adventures. Like stop forcing me to answer your questions. Also, middle child Gen Xer, I just don't want to be told to do that. And the first time that I was working with the party to make the Numenera campaign and they got to those questions, it was some of the most fun we had playing.
Mm-hmm.
Because they got psyched about how these characters were connected, and that's carried through like the year and a half that we've been playing. So I've become a big fan of it, and I really have learned to appreciate it in the games that use it, and I think Daggerheart does a good job with it. So
cool.
I don't hate them as inspiration, but if you're not going to establish a setting, why are you asking me questions about my background?
Yeah, that's fair.
But no, hold on a second here. No, I understand that the editing and the thing. The GM's going to have a setting when they begin to play the game, right? So they're going to at least lay out. So what's your background in this setting, and then we're trying to help. We're trying to build out what the GM has.
That's kind of part of my problem, though, is that they have a static set of questions, despite what the GM may establish as a setting. And to me, part of the problem with that is when you say a player can do something.
Yeah.
If it is then the GM's prerogative to include that, if the GM is the one handling all of the narrative. So, like, if you're playing a ribbit and water never comes up, and you never get to use the fact that you can breathe in water.
Yeah.
That feels bad.
Well, that sucks.
Right. So,
yes.
As a GM, I'm not a huge fan of random things on the character that inform my narrative and have no other purpose.
But aren't you supposed to answer those questions as the group?
Oh, so there's some that are based on your class and some that are based on your connections to the group. Mm-hmm. There's three backgrounds and then three connections.
For me, is running a game. Like, I don't think I would sit down and be like, now you go off on your corner and you write down and answer all these questions completely alien to everybody else who's playing the game, including me as the GM. Because that's where you come up with the proverbial person who has the 80-page backstory, who has slayed 18 dragons as a first-level fighter. Like, I would be like, no. Let's sit down, and here are some questions, and let's spitball how these things all work out together. Like, that's how I see those questions functioning. Like, I would not trust people to go off on their... I'm not a very trusting soul. So I would not trust people to go out and answer those questions on their own.
I do like the connection questions, which are the ones that are about the whole party.
Those are really cool.
Those I like. The background questions that each class has, though. For instance, the ranger has a terrible creature hurt your community, and you vowed to hunt them down. Your first kill almost killed you, and you've traveled to many dangerous lands. So can I not... I have to create a ranger that those three things have always happened because I have to answer those questions?
No, just make your own question up. Again, middle child Gen Xer. If I don't like the questions, I'm just going to do my own thing. Right. Like, those questions suck. I'm going to do mine.
That's where I'm like, if you're going to have static questions on the character sheet and say everyone should answer these, my first inclination shouldn't be
don't put them on the character sheet.
Scratch them out and replace them with better questions. Then don't include them in the first place.
I will. They're on the character sheet.
Yes, those are on the character sheet.
Okay.
Yeah. No. You're quote unquote supposed to answer them as part of character creation.
No, don't put those on the character sheet. Keep them and say, here are some suggested questions.
Yeah, happy to have them for inspiration.
Very simple.
Good point.
Very simple fix. But yeah.
All right, we probably need to wrap this up. So I will start giving you my overall opinion of the system. Since we theoretically only touched on chapter 1 and 2, I think we're going to continue this on the next episode next month. And probably try to play some games on Wes's server. So I can actually tell you what it's like to play it instead of just giving you a book review.
Yeah.
Daggerheart, I'm not sure it is for me, but that's neither here or there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not it is definitely not a rules light game, and it isn't trying to be. I think the general idea is that it is a narrative forward game, that we're focused more on the story, and the story in particular that we're telling together. And I think for me, the spotlight does that, and the way that it interacts with hope and fear. But the spotlight moving does that more than anything else. And I like it. It's probably crunchier than I would play, but I can't make that a criticism of the game, because that's just where I'm at right now. I'm looking at Easy D6. I'm looking at much simpler games.
It's an interesting thing. It's interesting because it is more crunchy than I'm used to, and yet at the same time, somehow they've managed to make this crunchy game mechanically simple. That's a pretty tough needle to thread. So I got to tip the hat to them for that.
I do have the feeling that some of the things I asked you guys about that I was confused, Guy, I think an hour in, I would be fine with it. I get that feeling that this isn't a badly designed system. It's just, and let's face it, most of the games we play today, most of the more difficult ones anyway, we learn by doing anyway. So, like absolutely. I could not have picked up 5e and just read the player's handbook and ran it.
Yep. So for me, first 2 chapters, there are parts of the characters that I like. I think I'm with Jacob, where I'm just like, the domain thing is like, like that's something I can hit or miss. I already told I don't like the cards.
Yeah.
I like cards. I like the concept of cards. I don't like these cards because I just don't like the way they're formatted. For me, they were very hard to parse. That is very much a me problem. And the material, like I go back to Final Fantasy VII, it's just materia swapping cards in and out, which is not necessarily that I want to play in my role-playing game, but I'm fighting the uphill battle on that, and that ship sailed. So those are aspects of the game that I struggle with.
Sure.
I really like Spotlight. I like that it's the spending of fear for the GM to take the spotlight. I think there are just some really cool aspects of the way that things work like that. And I think, as Jacob pointed out, there's no modes of play. There's just the play.
Yeah.
Like you just play. Like these are things I can really appreciate about Daggerheart. One thing we did not cover, and actually it's weird because in the GM section, the first couple things I saw, I'm like, well, where was this in the player section? I don't like the art. This is totally aesthetic. It is technically beautiful. It is skilled. It is gorgeous. Like it's all the really cool things, and it's just too dang clean. There's one full page piece of artwork towards the end of the first 2 chapters where there is literally someone who is hammering onto a like semi-molten piece of metal, and you would not get the sense that this person is in by a forge. Like it's just not there. And so to me, I think Calvin pointed out, like, it feels too corporate, which I guess that might be one way to put it. It just feels maybe too ideal,
safe
for so many too much safe. And so I didn't like, the artwork didn't suck me in the way that I wanted it to. Like there's one where there's one of the cat beings is like sharpening their sword. You can see a nick on the blade, and I'm looking at this guy and going, I don't think I would believe this person's ever been in a fight.
That's actually was one of my first reactions to the artwork. Is there's a lot of people standing still holding their weapons as opposed to actually like attacking. But there's not a lot of action shots.
I flipped to chapter 3 in the first piece of artwork, and I'm like, where the heck has this been?
Yeah.
Because it's the one where you see the person, you see like the different phases of how they could be. And I'm like going, Well, that's awesome. And there's another one, there's like a wizard with that big fountain of fire coming out. Like, so like that artwork exists. I don't know why it's this idealized form in the player chapters, like the player facing chapters. It was very strange.
It could be by decision, right? That this is the place where you make your character. So just here's your character. They don't have to do it, So I don't know.
I was, and I don't want to, it's not bad art.
No.
It's skilled. It's pretty. I don't want to say pretty because that can be pejorative. It's like, it's beautiful. The colors are really nice. I like it. But there just seems to be a disconnect with the implied world of what these people are interacting with and just how pristine they are.
I've had a lot of people describe or think that Daggerheart feels whimsical. And I think...
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I think that comes from that art where the art feels lighter.
Yeah.
And it gives a sort of odd flavoring to how you understand the world.
It felt strange. Like it just felt strange. So one of those things. What's like, hi, Jorbin's here. Look at that. So that was one thing. And to me, it's personal aesthetic. I hate it when people are like, this shows that this thing is stupid. Never. I don't care. Like, it just, for me, it didn't land. And that's just a personal thing.
So Jacob, what's your impressions? And did we miss anything?
I think we missed a couple things, but I think Daggerheart is like the epitome of a modern system, from its approach to accessibility, flavoring, the way they write and talk about abilities and how people should approach the table. I couldn't really ask for a better thing to like hand a player and have them read and understand what an RPG is outside of the system itself, just as a book of like, what does it mean to play an RPG and how should you approach it? It does feel a lot like somebody looked at all of the popular systems that people play and their pain points and went, okay, how do I design something that fixes this pain point? I don't like this. How do I fix it? And they compiled all of those fixes together and they went, okay, here's the system we made that fixes all of the problems that most people run into, which is really cool. It does come with problems of its own that you run into because that's sort of how the design feels like it was approached. I think we didn't talk about like gold and wealth, which is it's abstract, and I love that. And that's sort of the
I do appreciate
narrative approach that they took, is to abstract a lot of things. But I mean, overall, I think it's a great system. I am hoping to use it more to introduce players to playing RPGs as opposed to using like 5e or some of the more well-known traditional introduction systems.
Yeah. This is a much easier game to run than 5e. I haven't even run it, and I know that.
Yeah.
Cool.
So.
All right. So everything we missed, everybody, add it in the comments on YouTube, and we will add it because we will be back next month to talk about the rest of the book and whatever you bang me on the head and say we missed talking about.
Jacob's got some good things. I need to remember to take notes. I put all my comments in the forum on the Discord, and then I forgot to compile them all. So like all my thoughts are down. And folks, if you want to join in the background conversation that leads to these streams, you can be a coffee contributor for DMTales. The QR code is right next to Jacob's face. And that gives you access to the Discord, which gives you access to the forum, which is where we are doing this conversation behind. And I have to create the new forum post for chapters 3 and 4. And we talk about this constantly, and sometimes we even talk about the actual subject. Good time, very kind of laid back server. We try to keep everything copacetic and keep people treating each other kindly. Kindness is a big part of the system. And if you are there, like you've seen with some of the comments that got made tonight, they might become part of the stream. And if you want to hang out with us a little bit and you want to be on a stream in the future, perhaps you can even be on. This isn't something we promised, but this is the group from where we're going to be drawing our panel participants. And we would love to have you hanging out with us. And yeah, we do need to keep me caffeinated because my brain will shut off otherwise.
Yeah.
That's a little important. So very good. So that's what we got going. So we got 3 and 4. We're going to schedule it up for chapters 3 and 4 for next week. Maybe Calvin can join us if it doesn't snow and he has a meeting rescheduled. Stupid meetings and stupid snow. And I'm done with snow. Jason, how much snow did you get up there?
So I'm in southern New Hampshire, and here it almost got blown away. We had 40-mile-an-hour winds, so I had a half an inch of snow at one point in my car. One of my colleagues that's south of Boston had 37 inches of snow. So welcome to blizzards.
My brother-in-law and sister-in-law are on the Cape.
Oh, that's the worst.
They are still stuck in their house with no power.
Yeah.
And they were just told that they might get their water shut off because the hospital's running out of power and needs water.
Yeah. Southeastern Mass and the Cape got like a foot more than we got in, if you're old enough to remember the blizzard of 78. There's like a foot more than we got then.
Yeah. So crazy. I remember the blizzard of 78. I was 5 and was walking on top of snow. It was great. So, but we'll be back. And folks, for coming up on DMTales, I've got I'm going to go to my soul screen for a minute, guys. Give me a second here. And then I'll come back to say goodbye. So coming up next week, I'm going to be interviewing TR Nickel on Monday. She is a fantastic author and game designer. She's got something going on for Chaosium right now, and I'm not sure if she's allowed to say it in public yet. And she hasn't even told me, but really looking forward to having her on because she's awesome. Week after that, I'm going to be having Joe Wetzel from Inkwell Ideas on because he's doing this is really cool. It's a 80s like rock and roll monster book. And it's really neat. It's currently crowdfunding. It has been funded, but there's some really cool stuff. You want to check it out. I do have my Shattered Plains or Broken Steps, Shattered Plains, wrong genre. The Broken Steps for Dreams and Machines review, about 2/3 the way written. I need to finish that up, and a couple other books that I'm reading, including this wonderful book club with my 2 friends who are here. Let's bring them back on screen to everybody say goodbye. All right, guys, say goodnight. And actually, Jason, tell people where they can find you if they want to go look at some of your cool stuff.
You can find everything we do at shadowmain.com, SHADOMAIN.com. Reviews, interviews, articles, all kinds of stuff. If you want to do an interview with us, it's text-based. We email you questions, you email back when you have time, and we talk to everybody from influencers, writers, designers, right up to whoever got D&D for Christmas and they just played once.
Yep.
Every experience is valuable. So if you're interested, email us at shadowmainrpg@gmail.com.
Old school blog, really good stuff. And I need to go this way. Go check it out. We need more sites like that. So please support. And Jacob, you are not a personality.
No,
but people can find you.
People can find me on Discord at Paravox. I do have social media, technically, if somebody wants to look me up. I run games at conventions a lot.
This is where I'm going. What conventions are you going to be at in the next couple of months?
Oh, Concoction, EcclesiaCon, and I'm warming up to do Gen Con this summer for the first time.
Gen Con?
Yep.
Good for you.
That is the game I'm running at EcclesiaCon, and Concoction will be the prototype for the game I'm running at Gen Con.
Hey, this EcclesiaCon sounds really cool. Can you tell me about it?
I feel like you're more the expert on that topic.
EcclesiaCon, the link has been running on the stream all night. It is the small boutique convention, 150 people under, that I run in the basement of my church. We split the proceeds. 25% go to the church. It's for our roof replacement fund. And then 75% of the proceeds goes to booksmiles.org, which some people get confused because I think we're a church, we're giving to a religious organization. Booksmiles is not. Their sole purpose is to get books into the hands of children. And to do that a lot of times, they are literally saving books from landfills that would be bookstore worthy because people are just dumping them out. And so they save these things and they get them into kids' hands. So if you want to come out to EcclesiaCon, it is in Palmyra, New Jersey, May 1st and 2nd this year. Jacob will be there running games. Jason has donated books for our auction. Unfortunately, you're not able to come down this year. We're going to make that work in the future. And I will say that the one and only Scrat is going to be coming to EcclesiaCon this year. So if you know the Squirrels Play channel on YouTube, he surprised me with that last week. So I'm kind of excited for him to be there. Ron from Philly Area Gaming Expo and Concoction are going to be there. Ed Stark's going to be there. A couple other people, the Blind Bard will be around. So we're going to have some fun stuff. And Dave is going to be there as well. He's going to be doing lots.
Yeah, a few people in the chat are there.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So people can come out for that. We have a really good time, and it's a neat convention experience. And I'm really happy that we can do that. And then Concoction is going to be, it's like the sister convention to Page, which is down in Vineland, New Jersey at the end of May. And I'll be there as well doing the interview booth and running a couple of games. So that should be fun.
Yay. I will say,
yes,
although I don't currently have anything up and I have not scheduled anything for EcclesiaCon, I may shortly have a prototype of a game I'm working on and have been working on for a long time. Obviously, I have a lot of ideas about how games should be designed. So
don't
it was
put
a pet
implied
project.
lore on the page one if you're not going to deal with it the rest of the book.
Yeah. So I actually designed the system completely separate from lore.
Good.
For that particular reason. So
yes,
that might be something that around EcclesiaCon I start having play testing and getting people involved and telling me what I did wrong.
Cool.
I'll set you up with a place to do that. Absolutely. Please do. Even if we have to do it like the night before. But if you want to run, Jacob, you are more than welcome to do anything for that. Also, folks, you get 2 days, basically just under 2 days to back the Ocean Incident, which is Dave Ward and I's sci-fi horror adventure on BackerKit. The QR code is down there. And we are just about $100 away from our final stretch goal. So if you can consider doing that, this is a really cool one. It was written for Index Card RPG. It's going to be for Easy D6, Grim, Ironbound, Cypher System, and Dark Space once we get all the conversions done. So it should be a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of work to do, and I'm really excited for it. Was so glad to have folks who are here. Anna B. Meyer was here, the fantasy cartographer. Love Anna. She is awesome. If you ever see her at a con, make sure you say hello because she is fantastic. And all the other folks who are here in chat, we love all of you. And now it's very tired and I'm going to turn into a pumpkin. So Jason, Jacob, thank you for hanging out. And we'll be back next month with the TTRPG Book Club. Stay on the line when I shut down and we'll close out off stream. But until we see each other again, folks, happy playing, everyone.